You open your eyes. Nothing hurts, not exactly, but your legs feel like they belong to someone 10 years older than you were yesterday. Getting your feet onto the floor takes an extra second of thought. Standing up from the edge of the bed takes a small push through your arms, one you don't remember, needing 5 years ago. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a voice says, I should walk more. So you plan a walk, and then it rains, or your knee is stiff, or the sidewalk outside is uneven, and you don't feel steady on it today, and the walk doesn't happen. Again, here's what I want to tell you today. You do not have to leave that bed to start rebuilding the strength that's slipping away. There is one exercise, a single specific movement that you can do right there on the mattress before your feet ever touch the floor that builds more real leg strength than a casual walk does. Not instead of every kind of movement forever, but as the one thing that actually works when walking isn't happening, isn't safe yet, or simply isn't enough on its own. By the end of this video, you will know exactly how to do it, how many times, how to build it up over a month, and just as important, who should be careful with it and why. Stay through to the end, because the mistake most people make with this exact move is subtle. And it's the difference between it working and it doing nothing at all. Quick note, this is general education, not medical advice or a diagnosis treat. Anything here as a reason to ask someone qualified, not a replacement for asking them to. Why walking alone stops being enough. After 65, let's be honest about something walking cannot do. Because almost nobody explains this clearly. Walking is wonderful for your heart, your mood, your joints, your blood sugar. It is one of the best whole body habits a person can keep at any age. But as a tool for specifically rebuilding lost leg muscle, especially after 65, it has a real limit. And that limit is the reason so many people who walk every day still feel their legs get weaker year after year, season after season. Here is why. Ordinary walking on flat ground asks very little of your thigh and hip muscles. Your body has spent decades perfecting an efficient walking pattern, one that leans on momentum and rhythm rather than raw muscle effort to move you forward. That efficiency is exactly why walking feels easy and exactly why it does very little to build new muscle once you already know how to walk well. You can walk for 30 minutes and barely load a single major leg muscle group the way it actually needs to be loaded in order to grow stronger, or even hold steady. Meanwhile, after roughly your mid-30s and accelerating noticeably after 60, your body loses muscle tissue steadily unless something actively pushes back against that loss. This process has a name, sarcopenia, and it does not ask permission. It simply happens quietly, a small percentage every year, unless the muscle is regularly asked to do more than it's comfortable daily. Routine already demands of it. So here is the honest picture, the one most people never hear stated plainly. A, daily walk keeps what you have ticking along nicely. It does very little to rebuild what you've already lost and not much more to protect what remains from, continuing to shrink year over year. For that, your muscles need resistance, something pushing back against them held for long enough that the muscle fibers actually have to work rather than simply coast through a familiar motion. 3. Why a bed exercise can compete with walking for this specific job. Here's where it gets interesting and where most people are genuinely surprised, because you are lying down with your body weight distributed across the mattress. Instead of balanced on 2 feet, you can safely put far more direct, sustained load onto your thigh and hip muscles than an upright walk ever asks of them, without a single joint absorbing repeated impact and without any risk of losing your balance and falling in the process. Think about the difference between briefly touching a hot stove and holding your hands steadily near a flame. Walking is the brief touch, quick contact, gone before the muscle really has to commit to anything. What we're about to do is the steady, sustained heat, continuous tension the muscle cannot escape from for the length of the hold. That sustained tension is exactly the signal a muscle needs in order to start rebuilding itself, and it is very hard to create that specific signal while standing up and moving forward at the same time. There's a second advantage that matters enormously after 65, safety. Nearly every fall-related injury starts with a moment of instability while upright, on your feet, in a room, or outdoors. Lying on a stable, supportive mattress removes that risk completely while you're doing the hardest part of the work. You get the full muscle-building stimulus without any of the fall risk that comes with more demanding standing exercises, and that trade-off alone is worth taking seriously. 4. The exercise step by step. Here is the move. I call it the bed marching bridge, and it takes about 4 to 5 minutes once you know it well. Lie on your back, knees bent, feet flat on the mattress, about hip width apart, arms resting flat by your sides for stability. Take a breath in. As you breathe out, press your feet down into the mattress and lift your hips up off the bed, squeezing your buttocks and thighs until your body forms a fairly straight line. Running from your shoulders down through your hips to your knees. Do not lift so high that your lower back arches sharply. A moderate, controlled lift is exactly what you want here, not maximum height. Hold that bridge position steadily. Now, keeping your hips lifted and level, slowly raise one knee up toward your chest as if you were marching gently in place, while your other foot stays planted on the mattress and continues holding the bridge up on its own. Hold that single leg position for 2 full seconds. Then lower that foot back down to the mattress and immediately lift the other knee the same way, holding for 2 seconds again on that side. That's 1 full cycle, both legs marched once, one after the other, and it counts as a single repetition. Do 6 repetitions this way, keeping your hips lifted the entire time, only lowering all the way back down to the mattress once. You've finished the complete set of 6. Rest for 30 seconds, breathing normally, hips flat and relaxed on the bed. Then do a second set of 6 repetitions. If that feels genuinely manageable, a third set of 6 completes the full exercise for the day. The whole thing, 3 sets of 6, with rest between each one, takes about 4 to 5 minutes. And you never had to get off the mattress, stand upright, or balance on your feet at any single point in the entire routine. A few technical details that matter more than they might seem. Keep your core. Gently brace throughout the movement. Imagine pulling your belly button slightly toward your spine rather than letting your lower back do all the work. Of holding your hips up alone. Breathe continuously throughout. Do not hold your breath through the hold itself, since that can briefly spike your blood, pressure, and make you feel lightheaded when you finally release the position. And keep the movement slow and controlled in both directions. Lifting the knee and lowering the knee should each take a full second, not a quick, careless jerk in either direction. 5. Common mistakes that quietly cancel the benefit. 3 mistakes I see constantly, and each one quietly removes most of the real value from this exercise without you even noticing it happening. The first is letting the hips sag or dip while marching one leg up. The entire point of this exercise is that your standing leg and your core have to work overtime to keep your hips level while the other leg moves through the air. If your hips dip down every single time you lift a knee, you've quietly turned a genuine strength exercise into a much smaller, much less useful motion that barely challenges anything. Check yourself with a hand resting lightly on you. Hip bone as you march. If you feel it drop even slightly when you lift the opposite knee, slow the whole thing down and lift that hip back to level before you continue any further. The second is rushing the marching motion itself. If you flick your knee up and immediately drop it back down without pausing, you are moving fast enough that momentum, not muscle, is doing most of the actual work for you. Slow the whole movement down until you can genuinely feel real effort in your thigh and buttock the entire time your knee is raised in the air, not just a brief, forgettable twinge as it comes up and goes back down again. The third is skipping the rest between sets because it feels unnecessary early on when the first set felt easy. That 30-second rest is not wasted time, sitting there doing nothing. It's precisely what allows the muscle to recover just enough to complete a genuinely effective second set, rather than a weaker, sloppier version of the first one because the muscle never actually got a real breather in between. By the way, I want to mention something. I put together a complete guide that goes far beyond what we're talking about today. It covers everything from nutrition to sleep, joint health to hormones, and a lot of other areas that could genuinely help you. I left it in the description, and in the comments, it's worth taking a look at. 6. Who should be careful with this exercise? A few honest cautions before you actually try this tonight, because this move is not a blank check for absolutely everyone watching. If you've had a hip replacement within the last few months, or you've been told specifically to avoid certain hip positions during your recovery period, check with whoever managed that surgery before adding this movement to your routine. Since bridging positions can sometimes fall outside approved early recovery ranges depending on the exact surgical approach that was used on you. If lying flat on your back makes you feel short of breath, noticeably dizzy, or brings on reflux that's genuinely uncomfortable, propping your upper back and head up on a couple of firm pillows during the exercise is a perfectly good adjustment to make you still get almost the full benefit of the movement with your torso slightly elevated instead of completely flat against the mattress. If you feel any sharp, specific pain in your lower back or hip during the bridge itself, not ordinary muscle fatigue, which is normal and genuinely expected, but a sharp joint or nerve type pain, instead stop for that particular session. And try a smaller range of motion next time, lifting your hips just a few inches off the bed rather than all the way up to full height. And if you take blood pressure medication of any kind, be aware that some people feel briefly lightheaded standing up quickly right after finishing a set of holds like this, simply from blood pressure adjusting after a period of sustained muscle tension. The fix here is simple. After your final set of the day, lower your hips down fully, rest flat for 30 seconds, and then get up slowly, sitting on the edge of the bed for a moment before standing all the way up. For the large majority of people watching this with none of these specific concerns, this is one of the lowest risk strength exercises that exists, precisely because you are already lying down, already stable, and never asked to balance on your feet during the hardest part of the movement. 7. What you should actually feel afterward. It helps to know what a normal response looks like, so you're not second guessing every sensation. A mild warm fatigue in the front of your thighs and across your buttocks after your final set is exactly what you want. That's the muscle telling you it was genuinely challenged today. Some very light soreness the next day. Similar to what you'd feel after a slightly longer walk than usual is also completely normal, especially in the first couple of weeks. And it typically fades within a day or two as your body adapts to the new demand. What is not normal is sharp pain that lingers well past the workout. New swelling in a joint or discomfort that gets worse with each session rather than gradually easier. That pattern is your signal to scale back the range of motion, shorten the hold time, or pause and ask someone qualified, rather than pushing through it. 8. Building it into a 4-week progression. Here's how to progress this sensibly over the course of a month, rather than doing the exact same 3 sets forever, or trying to do far too much too soon and quitting out of frustration. Week 1, do exactly what we described a moment ago. 3 sets of 6, marching repetitions every morning before you get out of bed, or every evening before you go to sleep, whichever fits naturally into the routine you already have. Focus entirely on form during this first week level hips. Throughout slow and controlled marching, full 2-second holds on each side. Do not worry at all about how hard or easy it feels. Worry only about doing it correctly and consistently. Week 2. Once the movement feels genuinely familiar and comfortable, extend the hold on each raised knee from 2 seconds up to 3 seconds. Everything else about the routine stays exactly the same. 3 sets of 6, repetitions, 30-second rests between each set. Week 3, add a 4th full set of 6 repetitions, still using the 3-second hold you built in week 2. This is usually the week people notice the biggest, most noticeable jump in how their legs actually feel. Getting up out of a low chair or climbing that first flight of stairs in the morning without needing the handrail quite as much. Week 4, you have 2 options depending on how the previous weeks have felt. If it's felt manageable, extend the hold to 4 full seconds per leg, keeping the same 4 sets. If 4 sets already felt like plenty, simply maintain week. 3's version 4, sets of 6 with a 3-second hold as your steady, long-term baseline. There's no need to keep adding difficulty forever. The goal is a sustainable amount you'll keep doing for years, not a peak you hit once and abandon. After these 4 weeks, this becomes a 5-minute daily habit that lives quietly at the very start or end of your day, in much the same way brushing your teeth already does. It doesn't need to keep growing beyond this point to keep providing real, meaningful benefit as long as you keep showing up and doing it consistently, week after week. 9. How this fits with walking, not against it. I want to be genuinely clear about something here, because I don't want you to hear this video as stop walking entirely, do this instead. Walking is still wonderfully good for you for a whole list of reasons. This particular exercise doesn't touch at all your heart, your lungs, your mood, your bone density, from the impact of each step, even your balance and coordination from navigating real uneven ground under your own 2 feet. None of that goes away, and none of it should be set aside because of anything in this video. What this exercise does instead is fill a specific, important gap that walking entirely on its own leaves wide open, building real, measurable strength back into muscles that a gentle daily walk simply doesn't load hard enough to actually grow or protect. Think of it less as a replacement for walking and more as the missing piece, the part of your leg health that walking alone was genuinely never designed to provide. No matter how many steps you rack up on a given day, and on the days when walking genuinely isn't happening for you, bad, weather outside, a stiff morning, uneven ground you don't trust, low energy, after a poor night's sleep, this becomes something you can still do every single day with essentially 0 excuses standing in your way, because it happens right there on the very mattress you're already lying on anyway. One small practical note: a very soft mattress can make it harder to keep your hips level during the marching motion, simply because you sink into it more. If yours is soft, try the movement on a firm rug or carpeted floor instead, with a folded blanket under your head. Either surface works, choose whichever lets you keep your hips level throughout the set. Let's bring all of this together before we close out today's video. The problem: an ordinary daily walk, while genuinely good for you in many other ways, does not load your thigh and hip muscles hard enough to meaningfully rebuild the strength that naturally declines after 65. The solution: the bed marching bridge, hips lifted and held, one knee, marched up at a time and held for 2 to 4 seconds, both legs alternating, 3 to 4 sets of 6 repetitions, done lying down with 0 fall risk and 0 joint impact involved anywhere in the movement. The mistakes to avoid: letting your hips sag while marching, rushing the movement. So momentum does the work instead of your muscles. And skipping the rest between sets, because the first one felt easy. The progression: start with 3 sets of 6 and a 2-second hold in week 1, and build gradually toward 4 sets with a 3 or 4 second hold by week 4. Then hold steady there as your long-term baseline for the months ahead. The caution: anyone recovering from a recent hip replacement should check with their surgeon first. And anyone who feels lightheaded standing up quickly should rest flat for 30 seconds before rising after their final set of the day. Before you go, If today's video helped you, take a look at the guide I left in the description and pinned in the comments. It's not limited to what we covered. Today it goes into heart health, sleep, joints, hormones, and so much more that could really make a difference for you. Try it tonight before you turn off the light, or tomorrow morning before your feet ever touch the floor. 4 minutes. No walking shoes required, no weather to check outside, no uneven ground to worry about underfoot. Just you, your mattress, and the muscles that are genuine